welcome to this Dimensions CM Agile Pulse video, in which we are going to look at how we can use Pulse Agile to plan and track requests that are created within our Dimensions CM products and streams. So let's first of all access Pulse Agile. We can do that from the home screen simply by clicking on the products that we want to access. Notice how this left side menu changes based upon the current context of the view we have within Pulse. There are two new options. We're going to go into the first one, product settings, and here we can see there's an additional view called story request types. So basically within Pulse Agile, a story maps to a Dimensions CM request, and the request types we can see are the request types we have defined within our Dimensions CM product. Let's go back to that product level view. And the second option that we have is an additional option called requests. So by clicking on requests, we are now accessing Pulse Agile. So the first thing we might want to do is just create a backlog. Let's give it a title. We'll give it an owner. We can now save that. So let's click on that newly created backlog of update database drivers. You can see that Dan's the owner, but let's add some content in. I'll just change the view to show the requests. And on the right hand side, we already have requests being listed. So these will be requests creating the Dimensions CM database. Certain requests are grayed out, certain requests are highlighted and boldened. The requests that are grayed out are already in backlogs. So let's just add in an existing request. So I'll just drag that across, and I can create a new request as well. There we go, update driver Acme. So I've defined some information here, but I still can't save. I add in some story points. So I'm going to give that story points of 5, remaining story points of 5. So story points basically track the progress. Let's add in some exceptions criteria, but we still can't save. Why is that? Because it's following the dimensions rules, which are that certain attributes need to be defined. And one of those rules requires me to specify the severity. Now that's been defined, I can now save the request. The backlog now gets updated with that new request. I might want to see those requests because it's somewhat hidden at the moment. And here we go, we can see the requests. I might want to reprioritize the requests. I'll drag 47 to the top. One of the things we might want to do is to organize those requests under a feature. The feature appears and I want to add those requests in, so I can just drop them underneath. So our feature is now available. I can now click on my feature and I'll create an iteration. Iterations represent a single development lifecycle known as a sprint, and it usually lasts 1 or 2 weeks. Let's call this then update drivers to 2.0. And we'll start our sprint today. So here is our sprint, but we can now look at this in a more interactive way by going to the card wall view. The card wall view basically shows us the requests that are in the current sprint. The requests themselves are under columns, and each column is representing a state within Dimensions CM lifecycle for that request type. And from this request, or story as it's known, I can click on the request and I can update it. So for example, some work's been done on it. I can edit that request. Now sourced from website. So we can take off a story point. Let's save that. And we can now action it to the next state, which is under work. And again, we can update various details if we want, but we're just going to go ahead and action it. So let's return to that card wall view. So if we go to requests again, under requests, if we go to the iterations view, let's select that current iteration that we're working on. We can now see that the request CR47 has now moved to under work. So one of the things we might want to do is perform some work on that, and we can actually update and action within the card wall view as well, simply by clicking on the request and dragging it to the next state that we want to place it in. Now we can fill in some details. Took 3 hours. Perform some tests on that DLL. DLL looks good. Has been completed. Let's action it on. The iteration end is still 14 days away because we're all doing everything on the same day. But let's now assume that the request can now go to closed. Why? Because the DLL has been tested and that looks good. It was also delivered into our CM system, baselined and deployed out. We can say that's been deployed out as well. And we can now action that. Finally, let's just perform an update because the task is now completed. Let's edit it. And we can reduce those story points to 0. Let's go back to the iteration view and the breadcrumb view. We can now see that the remaining story points is now 0. Half of the stories have been completed. We've still got this other request to work on, but we've got another 14 days to do it in, which is good. So immediately managers can see that progress has been made, what's outstanding, who's completed the work, who still needs to do work, and so forth. Thank you for taking time to watch this video.